Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Finding the Fun in Fundraising. My name is Allison Berardi, and I am the program coordinator for high growth impact entrepreneurs at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those who may be new to us, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit dedicating to helping entrepreneurs access the knowledge, mentorship, and resources they need to start and grow successful businesses. Today's session is designed specifically for founders building companies with significant growth ambitions, whether you're raising capital or managing venture investors, scaling go-to-market or entering new markets, or preparing your company for long-term scale and exit opportunities. Many of you are operating in environments where speed, scale, and capital efficiency matter, and where decisions are shaped by investor expectations and rapid growth. This programming is intentionally built for founders navigating that kind of trajectory. Before we dive in, I'm going to launch a few quick polls so we can get a sense of where everyone is in their journey and what's keeping you up at night. We use this feedback to help shape the programs and resources we provide for this global community of entrepreneurs. While you're answering, feel free to drop in the chat where you're joining from today. We always love seeing the range of places founders are dialing in from. We'll also have a live Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to submit your questions anytime using the Q&A feature. And while the poll is running, I'd like to briefly recognize the partners who make these programs possible. The work we do at the NASDAQ Center is supported by organizations including NASDAQ, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, KPMG, Walmart, the Asian Innovation Hub, Wilson Sonsini, the Narrate Foundation, KKR, BPM, and Blend 360. Their support helps us expand access to resources and knowledge for entrepreneurs everywhere, and we're grateful for their partnership. So now let's get started. It sounds like most of you are concerned about finance, which is great. Without any further delay, I'd love to introduce Catherine Gray, Finding the Fun in Fundraising, and beautifully hosted by our CEO, Nicola Corzine.
Oh, thank you so much. What an absolute treat to be here with you today, Catherine. We're going to do our best to try to put some fun in fundraising, something that doesn't happen nearly too much. For our friends joining, just a moment to say we so appreciate you and the time that you're investing in this. I know capital can be one of those most challenging conversations to think about. It puts fearfulness rather than fun, sadly, into a lot of our minds and our hearts as we're thinking about what's at stake if we don't get this right. As you all know, I hope the center builds programs based on what our founders need. And inevitably, capital is always one of those conversations that comes up earnestly as I feel like I'm limited. I'm limited by not my vision, not my desire to grow, but honestly, my access to capital. So today we want to break down a lot of those perceived barriers that you're feeling very really, very authentically, and try to get you some answers, some clarity, and maybe even some confidence to pursue the capital that's going to propel your businesses forward in the ways that you deserve, in the ways that we're inspired by, and in the ways that we hope to one day not see capital be the one thing that's keeping you up at night. So without any more delay, Catherine, such a treat to be with you. Thank you so much for the work that you lead. Before we get started, for our audience who may not know you, and sad if they don't, but they will by the end of the next hour, can you share a little bit about how you entered the capital conversation? What drew you into saying, okay, this is a space I want to operate and operationalize for everyone to participate over the last many, many years of impact you've been bringing forward?
Yeah, great. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me, Nicola. And that's a great question. To kick it off, I was putting on women's empowerment events up to 8 or 10 years ago. And I come to find out that women were getting only 2% of venture capital. When I would tell other smart, accomplished people, did you know women are getting only 2% of venture capital? They would be like, what? That's crazy. I said, I know. And I'm a big believer it's film and television that helps change culture by educating people in an entertaining storytelling kind of way. So at the time I was putting on these events, I decided to do a pitch fest and film the journey of these women and see how it impacted them to have women actually investing in them. And the very fact that they had women investing in them and believing in them boosted their confidence. And I followed their journeys. And it was more about than just the money. It's also about the resources, the connections, and the mental support. And so, in following their journey in what's called it was called She Angel series, which is still on YouTube, I decided to raise the money to make a film called Show Her the Money. Lucky for us, we won many awards at film festivals around the world. Took it on a 100-city tour around the world, over 400 screenings. And US News and World Report said it's one of the top 10 financial films of the decade. So we were lucky to get that kind of momentum, and it was very organic. We then came out with a book called Show Her the Money because I said, oh my gosh, all the women that helped make this film possible when I raised $1 million to make it, all had such extraordinary stories. And I'm like, this is a book. Like, who doesn't want to read these inspiring stories of these women who have raised the money and been successful and invested in other women and built their wealth through it? So we launched that book, and I was so lucky to have Sharon Gless, the Emmy Award winning actress, actually do our audiobook. She was part of the movie. And a lot of people know her from that famous TV show called Cagney and Lacey, which was the very first show in television. I don't know how many people know this, that had two female leads in a drama series. And so they changed the face of television forever for women. And I do believe, like I said, that it is film and television that raises awareness, because you can talk about the fact that women only get 2%, but to actually have a movie about it and see the struggles that entrepreneurs have in this arena and watch their journeys and feel like you identify with the story is a game changer. So that was the catalyst to us then, getting to have an opportunity like platforms like yours to talk more about why are women underfunded and how can we fix that?
I am so grateful for that catalyst, as is all the people joining us today and all the millions of lives that you've affected. I know we were chatting just briefly before we started of you really can't be what you can't see. And so to change culture and to see these faces of amazing women investors who are empowering economic outcomes, growth, innovation worldwide through these stories is just exceptional. But I also want to honor the fact that for a lot of times I feel like capital is like the monster in the closet that people don't want to open the door and recognize that it's there. And so they just keep forgetting about the closet. It's so stressful. And I mean, I'm saying it a bit tongue in cheek, but having been on both sides, one as investor, but also raising capital, it might be the most intimidating thing out there. It's a situation where, there's a reason we say it's our baby when we think of how much heart and soul goes into building a business, and then we lay it all out and say, please, will you like it? Isn't it a pretty baby? Won't you give it some care and some love and some money? And a lot of the times we're told no. And that might be the hardest thing that we have to hear. But you're in a position now, having heard all these stories, having seen so much data and research around the world. What changes that mindset? What changes it so that it's not a situation where founders fear the monster in the closet, but they're actually able to embrace it with a sense of confidence? What do you suggest for founders approaching this for the first time, or for those feeling that they've only ever heard no?
Well, first of all, I would say let's look at all the successful women, people like that just had the $1 billion exit, like Poppy. There are women out there being successful at raising money. And so we can't say nobody's successful at it. And if, some people are successful, why not you? And
Mm.
so what is it that they have that they were able to do it that's holding you back? And, I try to talk about mindset. Mindset's very important. If you don't think you can, then guess what? You can't. And so you have to believe that you can raise this money. It starts with that. And how do you get past that obstacle? One of the things I always suggest is that you say to yourself, I'm not raising money for myself. I'm raising money for this great download that I got, like my purpose on the planet. And when you're asking for something that's that important to the world and important to the planet, it kind of makes you fearless to ask. And then a lot more goes into it too, and finding your people, really understanding that you have to talk to a lot of people. That's just sales. But instead of looking at it like a burden, like, hey, I'm going to go out and meet some really fascinating, cool people who've done some amazing stuff in the world, but I'm going to be able to ascertain really quickly if they're my people. And by that, I mean somebody who's actually going to invest in my company so you don't waste so much of your time and energy. So it's learning how to assess that quickly. What do they invest in? Not just telling them what you do, but really asking them, what is it they're interested in? And if they're interested in CPG and you're out there trying to raise money for tech, move on and take your energy to someone who says, I'm interested in tech. That's my area of interest. Does that make sense? Just narrowing down who you're giving your time and energy to.
Yeah, absolutely. Find your tribe, find your people, and also pattern match, I think, to where you want to go and learn from those who have done it and realize even on those hard days, people do it. You need to surround yourself with those positive stories as much as possible.
Yeah,
I think one of the things that really resonates with me on what you were talking about with regards to mindset was realizing it really does change the dynamic when you're not just showing up saying, please, can I have a little money for my tin cup today that's going to help me do a little bit more with where I'm growing, but you're actually finding the right people that you want to go on this journey with. And then that is, I know right now we're speaking about, dilutive capital or venture or angel, those types of things. But this is true in any form of capital. You really want
true.
to build relationships. So how have you seen and what would you inspire those joining us today to think about the criticality of long-term relationships that are really the underpinning of good capital coming into your company?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. And one is also at the outset determining what type of capital you need. Like educate yourself on that. Do you need an SBA loan or do you need venture capital? Do you need angel investor, or do you need, or do you need to offer debt capital and educate yourself on those options? Because you have to know what kind of capital you're going after before you even start. And then, there's a saying, you become the five people that you're hanging out with. So surround yourself with other people who are doing what you want to be doing. Uh, if you're in tech and you know five other people that have actually raised the money in tech, surround yourself with those people. They're probably really cool, great people to be getting to know. And that's what I mean by fun. It's fun to meet other successful people who have actually accomplished what you want to. And you can go out and meet them. They're not going to come knock on your door. So I say you got to take action. You got to go meet people, but don't look at it as a drag. Look at it as an opportunity to meet some really fascinating people and have fun doing it. And then, it's going to make your job a lot easier to build that revenue for your company. So, attend events, go to angel investment groups, go to family office events, go to all these places where you're going to meet the right people who are investors. They're out there looking to invest their money. You just have to connect with them. And that's what I'd say. Take action. And one of the things I see a mistake that people make is they'll meet somebody who is interested and really a great connection, but they don't nurture it. And
Mm,
also, it's so important to follow up 24 to 48 hours within meeting the time of meeting them because they'll forget and they'll have met 10 other people. So, I think that's a simple thing that people can do that most people don't, and that is what'll set you apart. 24 to 48 hours after meeting them, if they've asked you to follow up, do that.
mm.
And that's one simple way to set yourself apart from everybody else.
I love that. I love that. We often talk in Milestone Makers, which is one of our immersive programs here, about the ABCs. Everybody knows ABCs of entrepreneurship is usually always be closing. We often say the ones that matter are always be credible, and credibility often comes into the follow through. And it's the unsexy part of like the 150-second thing that gets added to your to-do list, but it's the one that people remember, especially if they're showing genuine interest in who you are, what you're trying to build. Thank you for reminding us of that. It's such an important factor. It really is.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this funny little 30-second story, and it's important because it leads into the question that I want to ask you next. The very first fundraising, not so much fun at the time, but the very first fundraising event that we offered at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, when we opened our doors, we used to have physical doors in San Francisco. There were two people that I distinctly remember to this day that entered. And we had this massive ticker symbol that said Stack Entrepreneurial Center that ran underneath our marquee. And a young man walks in, and he walks in and he says, "Hi, I'm so and I have $100 million company." And I was like, "Whoa, look at him go." And I said, "Amazing, tell me more," because one must when you're like, you have $100 million company. This is incredible. And he was talking about the passion and the purpose and what he was trying to build. I was like, look at that bravado. This is gravitas that is extraordinary. And then there was a young woman that walked in, and she walked in a little differently. She walked in a little unsure of herself, and she was like, "I'm not actually sure that I'm supposed to be here." And I was like, "Welcome to the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. We're so happy to have you here. You're exactly where you're supposed to be." And she said, "I never actually thought that I should call myself an entrepreneur because I haven't built anything that's of value yet." And I say that because I think authenticity to who we are and where we are in our journey is so much a part of the how we dress for capital success a lot of the times. And so, Catherine, owning genuinely that story, that narrative of confidence and authenticity, what do you advise founders to really show up as themselves, whether they're saying, "I'm $100 million company in the making, it just hasn't been realized yet," or that first time founder who is like, "I don't even know that I get to call myself that yet because I haven't done what I'm trying to do." How do you encourage people to find the confidence of where they are in their journey?
Yeah, well, two things. One is the reason that you remember that guy of all the people was his energy.
Hmm.
And, Maya Angelou is the one that had that saying, people don't even remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. And if we could all remember that, that's really important. So the girl that came in that you were describing, I would say, I don't think that that is the right approach because authentically, she believes enough in her product or service that she's going to do it. She just wasn't believing in herself. And that's the part that women really need to work on. And there are coaches and programs out there that help women build their confidence. Let's face it, we grow up in a society that doesn't garner confidence in women like it does in men. They say the research says if there's a job out there and it has 10 requirements, and a guy can say, "Oh, well, I have three of those requirements. I'm
A
suitable for
great
that
fit.
job." And a woman will say, "Oh, I only have eight of the 10. I'm not qualified." And that's a real thing. That's like research shows that, which is crazy. So I would say, I do think it's important for every woman to walk in with the confidence, and that it is very authentic if she puts her energies into really how passionate she is about that God-given download that she's had, and put the focus on that and not the fact that she hasn't been an entrepreneur or she's just starting out. So I think that mindset is really important to shift, and it's still being super authentic. You know, but I don't think you need to come into any room and say, "I don't believe in myself," or I'm not sure about this," or, even if you are thinking that on the inside, I think the authenticity comes in your passion for what you really are doing. And you have to shift it to that authentic passion that you have. You wouldn't be doing it unless you'd gotten the download, and you wouldn't be doing it unless you really believe that it's something that would be benefit the world, right? So it's shifting that, you know, you might 20% not believe you're meant to be doing it, but 80% of you is saying, so put your focus on that 80% that says, oh, yeah, I'm meant to be doing this, and this is my calling.
Absolutely. And back to the find your tribe, hopefully up until this point, you've also seen other people that have done it. You've nurtured with them. You're working through how you converse. It's
Yeah.
amazing the difference too that I see when there's a calmness and a balance of power dynamics. That the shine that comes through is genuine and it's amazing. That's, I think, the encouragement that we want to have all entrepreneurs walk into a room with going, this is your room. This is your story. No one can take that away from you. And
And,
it's
I've never seen anybody, Nicola, be successful walking into a room saying, I really don't believe in myself, but I hope you believe in this idea. I've never seen anybody get funding that comes in and says, oh my God, I'm running out of money. I really need money. It doesn't work. And so they have to change that mindset. And changing that mindset and that energy is what's going to attract money to them. And that's what I've seen.
love that. Love that. And that is where we want to encourage our audience today to really focus on. Um, okay, now speaking of maybe dispelling a few myths out there, and again, I'll say this from my time at band, it was always a little heartbreaking to know how much time and energy founders were putting into what I would lovingly call death by PowerPoint, where like they'd go meet with an investor and they'd come back and the investor would have told them six or seven things, just questions, and then they would rewrite the entire script. And you're in many ways the script and the narrative part of the business. So I'm going to ask you a hard question, and that is how much and when do we focus on the perfecting the pitch? There's a million resources out there that tell
Yeah.
us how to do it. And there's many that say if you don't get that right, you have no hope whatsoever in getting your story funded. What's your advice to founders on this very gnarly and challenging thing of the perfect pitch that does the
Yeah.
justice of getting the money in the bank?
Well, first of all, I have seen people without perfect pitches get funding. So I do think it's more about the founder and their energy and their knowledge and their passion and their experience. I think that's number one. The pitch deck can be important to a lot of investors. And I think, if you're really being in tune with that person that you're talking to, if they're your people or they're not. And if they don't get your vision and they're giving you feedback that doesn't make sense, you don't have to implement it. But if they're giving you legitimate feedback and you know in your gut they're right that something's missing, why not tweak it? The whole point of meeting with them is to get their expert feedback. But I don't think you take everyone's feedback. I think you take the feedback from the people that you really resonate with, that you think are fueling you, and they're aligned with your vision. So I know that's kind of an answer that's not cut and dry, but it's kind of like, you know, I always say sales is really when you can overcome anyone's objection. And so it's great to get those objections so that you know how to overcome them all. And that will really help you get funding is if you can overcome every objection, and they're going to have plenty. But just my career of the last several decades, I have found that to be the winning formula is when someone can't ask you something and you don't know the answer. As long as you can, overcome any objection, you should get them as an investor.
And back to that just great insight that you led this conversation off with today. Approach it as this is a relationship that you're excited to continue. And so,
Yeah.
therefore, you're not just showing up asking for the money, you're showing up looking to learn. And in that looking to learn, the information that you're gathering, that you're collecting, is going to inform you of where you head next or how you grow next. And
Yeah,
it's
and
not
letting people know
you
you're
won't.
looking for the right partners, right? That you're not letting just anyone invest in your company. You're looking for people that really align with your values and your vision. And I think that makes people feel good too, that you're looking for the right people and making them feel like they are the right person to align. I just got a pitch from someone yesterday, and they're like, "We're looking for the right people, and we thought of you." And I thought, hey, that's cool. I think that was a great approach on their part.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say maybe I'm not a firm, solid believer that all press is good press, but I absolutely am a firm believer that all feedback is a gift. And so it's the
Yeah.
application of that gift and how you lean into it to inform and guide next. Of course,
Yeah.
again, like the I'm sorry this is not a fit is still a real hard reality. And I think sadly for a lot of founders, there's this moment of going, do I give up? Like, is this my moment to realize not right now? Um, and taking a lot of no's might be one of the hardest part of being an entrepreneur. This is a little off my script, but to you, I'm just curious when you've heard these stories of founders who persisted, what got them through those difficult days? What got them through the no's and still come out to say, I'm going to find the right partner and I'm going to stick it out? Or did they take sabbaticals and just wait for a moment to shine up with a different approach to how they fundraised?
Well, I think both can be true. First of all, if you're going to let the nose shoot you down, then don't bother being an entrepreneur because that just comes with the territory. But it's really true when they say, seven no's means you're that much closer to a yes, and that really is true. And one way to cut down on the no's is knowing who the people are that you're really trying to attract that are going to love what you're doing. So when we started the conversation, we were talking about, asking the wrong people and wasting time and energy on that. So that's one of the things is being able to assess who really is somebody that would be interested in what you're doing will eliminate a lot of that knows just by talking to the right people that are actually interested in what it is you're doing, right? That eliminates a lot of that. But yeah, just the no's mean that you're that much closer to a yes. If you ask enough people in the right genre that are actually interested in what you're creating, you're going to get a yes. You got to keep going till you find the right person. And sometimes it's timing. Maybe it's the right person, but not right time. I can't tell you how many times, I've talked to somebody and they didn't do it at the time, but 6 months later they did. So you're building your network of investors and don't abandon them. Come back to them in 6 months
Yeah.
and then once you do get an investor, they typically have friends that want to invest in something similar.
Mm,
And then you have the trust factor because people, if my friend calls me up and says, Hey, I invested in this and you might want to take a look at it too, that builds your chances of bringing in that investor. So
mhm,
you're trying to build that circle of investors that know each other. And that's what I say is the fun in it, building that circle and that network of people that are like-minded and look at what you're doing as an opportunity. You have to look at it like you are offering people an opportunity to get in on your amazing idea and business that you can see is going to flourish.
mm.
So lucky for them. Look at it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let the fortune unfold. Um, I love how you're starting to really move us closer to the recognition that, due diligence is a two-way street. And I think if you can invest time in finding your tribe, great things will happen. Um, Obviously, there's the silliness of the saying that's always the best time to raise capital is when you don't need it, which, you kind of like roll your eyebrows a little bit at. But what do you suggest for people who are approaching fundraising as a first time when it comes to actually thinking, how do I even begin? Like, how do I start to think about building my tribe? You've given us some good tips, like, find your people on LinkedIn, make sure you're looking for people who have been funded in that same genre. What are the strategies for that successful fundraising strategy piece that is so critical to success?
I think you have to think out of the box. Uh, of course, go to angel groups, venture capital summits, family office events, and start to build your tribe before you need it. They always say before you need it, but pretty much you need the funding usually from
Solid.
the
Exactly.
get-go. But if you do have the luxury of building it out, go to those things and meet people because, like I said, they're not going to come knocking on your door. And I always say, if you have the time before you have to really go out and raise money. do a TEDx talk, do interviews on podcasts so that you have all that media that you could share with them that's sharing your vision instead of you just personally. Hey, here's my video and my signature that tells about what I'm doing. I also work with a woman that creates videos that like explain technologies. Many of the people that I work with that have technologies that are hard for people to understand, I connect them with a company that creates a video that explains it in lay terms. And I think that's a good sales tool, a good sales vehicle. So making sure you have all of your sales tools in place that build up your credibility before you even go out there. And then like you said, like we have talked about, going and building these networks before you need the funding. I always find it interesting when I meet somebody and they have a really great concept and they're like, yeah, we're not accepting money at this time, but I'll let you know when we are. I think, oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Um, Okay, I'm mindful that we've got about 10 minutes left before we're going to open up for Q&A. So for my friends joining us, if there are questions that you'd love to get Catherine's incredible experience on, please go ahead and use that Q&A function and drop them in, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. And thank you for those of you who have submitted questions in advance. I have a list of those. I'm going to try to get to as many of those as I can. Before we go there, though, I want to turn a little bit into, I think, another area where founders often get tripped up. They've worked on their deck, they've worked on this story, they've done everything right. They've thought about sizing their market, they've got all the bells and whistles on, and then they're trying to read tea leaves, right? They're trying to read the signals of, is this investor really interested? Are they actually going to write a check? How many more meetings before we get to that point? What are some of the other pieces that investors, in your experience, Catherine, are really looking to learn as the relationship unfolds? What are those signs that founders should be focused on, besides making sure that they've done the great follow-up like they promised?
Well, I would say making sure that they are talking about what is the end game, like what's their exit strategies. Um, Obviously, being able to say they're building the business, that they're getting more customers. They got to put more focus on building their customer base than just on raising money, because once they become profitable, it's going to be easier to raise the money. So that should be a big focus. Um, there's a woman that teaches a class and has a book, Andrea Quinn. Uh, and one thing I love that she says is women spend too much time trying to make not their people their people.
Mm.
So when somebody's not interested, stop wasting your time trying to make them interested. The people that will invest in you are probably interested from the get-go. Like they get it, they see your vision, you know, that's the people you want to spend your time on. And then the other thing that women are really not great about is asking. And one of the things Andrea talks about is um, even when you're asking to say to someone what you require, and that seems to be a magic word. So I require $100,000 to implement my marketing plan so that I can take this business to the next level. And, would like to know if I could bring you on board, something like that. Um, because if they're in your court and they really believe in you, they will identify with that kind of approach. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and that's a really, I haven't heard that one before. I love that. I often find need is like a very passive approach, and it's
Yes,
really like, what if you don't get it? Like you're still gonna be okay,
right,
right?
right. But I
Yeah,
require,
yeah,
yeah,
there's one more. That's really interesting. I had to try that one. In our own fundraising approaches at the center as a nonprofit. I mean, I'm going to go there next because I think, we obviously have spent a lot of time talking about a portion of the capital stack. And for founders, a lot of the time, there's just even uncertainty and like, how do I approach like knowing how to form my capital stack? And friends, let me not use words that may not necessarily make a whole lot of sense. capital stack just simply means you can piece this together like a beautiful puzzle. You can go get non-dilutive funding, you can get dilutive funding, you can think about what stage of the journey is the right type of capital to you for you to approach. And a lot of the time too, I also want to make sure we address this elephant in the room. You can have multiple approaches that you're taking at once. And that
Yes.
state of like, oh, I can have an A and a B pathway open for me and it's okay.
Yeah.
How have you seen that come into play, Catherine, from like giving investors confidence? Because honestly, for those of us in the angel business, as you know all too well, a lot of the times the risk is the next round. It's not only like the exit way down the road. It's like, do they have enough for what they need to do before the next tranche of money comes in? So can you walk us through a little bit about that experience from your standpoint of like building a capital stack that's authentic to the founder and also permission to have a few different flavors of ice cream in our shop to pick from as we're thinking about that?
Yeah, and like I was saying, you making sure they know what their options are, and like just to give you an example, with our Show Her the Money movie, to raise $1 million, I had to use different approaches. So some were equity, some were using a 501(c)(3) fiscal sponsor, so that people could donate from their DAF or whatever, their donor advisory fund, and also would take less equity. So we also did fundraisers. We also did corporate sponsors. So knowing all the different ways that you can do that. And then also, I always say I'm a big proponent of looking what resources are out there that can help you. Certainly the NASDAQ Center, Entrepreneurial Center has a lot of resources for them to use. Um, there are things out there like Fidelity Private Shares that help people with their entrepreneurs with their cap table. So knowing what resources are out there is important. That's one thing we do at sheangelinvestors.com is we have resources too, like experts that can help you with everything from coaching to creating a video that explains your tech product to um, someone that can help you like as a fractional CFO. Like, I think you have to understand as an entrepreneur that one of the most important things is that you don't try to do everything yourself.
Mhm.
That will create burnout. And let's face it, you're not going to be good at everything. So even if you have to do a crowdfunding to raise enough money to hire some people, you can do that too. Have your great product or service, let people donate to you, get a tax write-off, and get your product or service as part of it. And you have to think creatively and think out of the box. Everything is not, cut and dry for everybody. You have to be creative. And one of the other things I meant to mention when I was saying thinking out of the box, inviting women investors to private dinners has become very popular. And that can be a great way for people to learn about you and your product and your service and get to build relationships. One of the best ways to build relationships is over a dinner or a lunch. People tend to really connect better even than at conferences and stuff. So thinking out of the box along those lines. But yeah, there's different ways to bring in the capital, and you have to get creative with piecing it all together and making yourself aware of what makes sense for your particular situation.
I so agree. I think, 11 years ago, the options for a founder were fairly finite. And a decade later, there's so many variations of capital from, revenue-based financing to some really creative loan products out there. Absolutely. So shameless plug here for the center with a free resource that we have. Launched with the White House and the SBA a few years ago. We actually have a capital pathways interactive workbook where it lets the founder sit with some of those hard questions like, how do I feel about not actually having full control of my company? How do I feel about maybe having to give record keeping of my finances every quarter? How do I feel about some of these things? And the reasons that asks the questions is once you take the money in, it's really hard to unravel a decision that was made. And so often it's not necessarily visible when you're pursuing capital what the expectations are. And so if we
Yeah.
give that knowledge at the forefront, it allows founders to have more control and more confidence as they're interacting in these great conversations with amazing people who just want to grow and scale their business. So if you're curious about finding that, if you want to take it, if you want to share it on, just go over to our workbooks and toolkits page, and you'll be able to get that Capital Pathways link and play around with it. Answer the questions differently, see how you feel. And it's not going to give you a one size fits all approach at the end of it, but it will give you clarity on optionality, which we love a founder with optionality in front of them, as I know Catherine says every single time that we get together. Um, all right, so I'm going to try to ask just one more question. I have like 1,000 because I could spend hours and hours with you, Catherine. But I have one more question before we go to all the great questions that have come in from the entrepreneurs. And it's just this: going back to the honor of the conversation that we started with, fun in fundraising. It can happen. It's possible. When you look back over all those stories of all those founders that you've gotten to know and see, what was always true in the founders that, yes, of course, raised the money, but also had joy in the process? And what would you encourage our founders here today to be able to take from those insights and apply forward as they approach a really hard part of their own journey in entrepreneurship?
I just think letting people know that not only are you passionate, but you have experience and that you have a vision and that you have a plan. When I think of really exceptional founders that have been successful at their fundraising, one that comes to mind that I'm thinking about that wins every pitch competition because they're always positive and they're always like, yes, I have more funding coming in, and yes, we're getting our distribution going, and yes, our manufacturing is going well. They always have a positive note. Like I said, to the juxtaposition of someone coming in and saying, I'm running out of money, and if I don't get the money, we're going to have to close, and nobody's going to invest in that. So I think that's just really important. It really comes down to mindset and belief in yourself. And like I said, knowing that it is your purpose on the planet and that's what drives you. And then being able to ascertain who um, is a good fit for you. Not all money is good money. Don't bring in people that are not making you feel good about what you're doing. The last line in our movie is um, people, people will tell you you can't do something because they can't, not because you can't. They don't know what you are capable of. And so I've always loved that line that Pocket Sun says as the last line of our Show Her the Money movie. Um, there are 7 simple things I do on a daily basis, and I'm happy to share them. And I think it helps empower people to not burn out and to be empowered in the middle of how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. So if you'd like me to share those, I'll share those.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So just 7 simple things. And when I say they're simple, they're like incredibly simple, but it's a matter of if you do them or not. And so I would just say start by writing down what it is your goal is. If it's raising money or bringing in a CFO or whatever it is, it's so important not to just keep it up here, but to actually write it. Do you know writing is what actually manifests things? It takes it out of your head and makes it actually happen. So whatever it is you're thinking you want to accomplish, whatever you want to raise this year or accomplish this year, be sure to write it down. And I mean every day, like write down what you want to accomplish this year, but also this day. And you will see if you write down what it is you want to accomplish that day, by writing it down, you will probably accomplish it. Then the other 6 I'll just fly through. Meditating is super important because our day is so busy, filled with social media and to-dos. But if you take 5 minutes, it impacts the whole rest of your day. If you set the intention and meditate and allow yourself to get the downloads of what it is you're supposed to be doing. We can't do that when we have so much chatter. Um, Another thing is, and I'm really big on, is do something for somebody else. This is how we get out of ourselves and bring good energy, good karma. People talk about things in the financial world so much in terms of um, just cut and dry, but a lot of things are really spiritually motivated to creating a balanced life. And so doing something for someone else is so easy, it's free. And anybody who knows me knows I'm really big about connecting people. I pretty much do that on a daily basis. Just out of doing it on a regular basis. I just automatically do it. I don't think about it. But when I meet people at these different events, I try to remember what it is they do. So when I meet someone else, and it's maybe not something that I need, but let's say they're writing a book and they need a publisher. Oh, I have somebody that can connect you to a publisher. So we should connect each other. There's a lot of good energy in karma in that as you're building your business. Help other people. Um, Share your hopes and dreams with somebody else, a trusted confidant, not just with anybody, but somebody who really has your back and you believe in them. I think it's so important not to keep it all in your head, but to share what it is you're trying to accomplish. So that's why I love these entrepreneurial groups where you meet other people doing what you're doing. Um, do something every day that makes you happy because we have to have a balance. I don't care if it's Pilates or walking your dog, make sure that you do something that feeds your soul every day, because a burnt out entrepreneur is not going to be a successful one. Um, uh, this is really important. Do one thing every day toward your goal. So if you're trying to raise $100,000, if you would just, or $1 million or whatever it is, do one thing toward that every day. That's 365 actions that year. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to raise that money. So if it's making a phone call or sending an email or going to an event to meet people, one thing toward it every day, you will get there. And then the last one is I'm a big believer in a gratitude journal. I think, it's tough being an entrepreneur and you might feel like everything went wrong on a given day, but you can always find three or four or five things that actually did go right, even if it's you got a great call from a friend or you had a great walk with your dog or whatever it is, you can find those three or four or five things. And when you write those down in a gratitude journal, you are reliving that good experience. And so you're feeding your soul to make yourself feel happy. A happy entrepreneur is a successful entrepreneur, and it's important to do those 7 things on a daily basis, which, just to recap them, is to write down your goals, meditate, to allow the downloads, to help somebody else out, to do something daily that makes you happy, to do one thing toward your goal every day, and to keep a gratitude journal to keep everything in check and let yourself know that you're on a positive path to making that entrepreneurial endeavor a successful one and enjoy yourself on the way.
And that's what brings the fun to everything, not just fundraising. I absolutely love that, Catherine. It's fascinating that you mentioned on the neuroscience and the handwriting. Actually, just saw a study that came out on the findings of this, and it really is so critical. We spend so much of our time typing and sending texts and doing the things, but the act of slowing down and writing is actually what brings it into our nervous system in a more intentional way. So
Yeah.
very good to know. Very good to know. Um, Okay, so I'm going to go super tactical from that fantastic philosophy, which I hope guides us all forward and is a healthy reminder on the importance of seeing this as a holistic ecosystem of support for all of you in the fundraising moments, and also the power that you have in the fundraising journey. These acts are you. It doesn't require anyone else. It's just you, which is just the best thing when you're an entrepreneur. You're not depending on someone else. It's just you. Um, but also back to the relationships, you got to find people. And there's been so many great questions that are coming in going, okay, help me figure out how do I find an angel group? How do I find the right part of my tribe to outreach to? So maybe we can both sort of offer up some suggestions and tips and tricks on what you've seen. Let's start with angel groups, since obviously both of us are kind of from that zone. So can you share where you often will send people to like figure out who are the right angel groups? How do I find them? Where do they live? And where are they gathered? Can I just crash their meetings? What goes on?
Yeah, literally you can Google. There's angel groups in almost every city that there is. Yes, you can just show up for the most part and get to meet people. So it's not that big of an obstacle. Go in, meet them, and then they'll tell you about other ones too, depending on what part of the country you're in. But we also list several of them in our movie, Show Her the Money. And I recommend everybody on here, if you haven't seen Show Her the Money yet, it is showherthemoneymovie.com, and we are on Apple and Amazon now. And the reason I say that is our movie is the only movie out there that really explains venture capital and how that works, but it applies to all types of fundraising. And you'll see the journeys that the entrepreneurs that we've featured in the movie have gone through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but you do learn from it. And yeah, I just think we need more uh, TV and films out there about this topic because we have to educate ourselves on it and how important it is for us to invest in it. That's always a big focus of ours, getting more women to be the investors because that actually is what will fix this problem. We need more women investors.
Great. And I'm going to save that as my last question to ask where your next chapter or opportunity is coming, because I'm so excited for this one for you. Um, I'll add into what Catherine has already beautifully articulated, as far as like how to find really good visible sources. In America today, there's 240 accredited angel groups. They are associated with what's known as the Angel Capital Association, which was born out of Kauffman Foundation. Band of Angels was one of the origin groups of that, and I was privileged to be one of the founding members of this. And you can actually go over to their member directory. It's free. It's available. It's everywhere. Angels, as you've already heard Catherine talk about, are geo-specific. Most of them. I'm going to say like a 90-10 effort there. Some of them are over many states. There's a handful that are national, but the supermajority are local. So what you want to do is you want to go find your region. You want to go look at those groups as an example. And then the steps that I would take and have nurtured and encouraged so many today is you click on their portfolio link. You go look at their portfolio companies. You go see, oh, they invest in tech, and then you go verify and validate. Like, I'm a tech entrepreneur. These might be my tribe. I'm gonna go dig in and learn more. Or like, oh, they're all CPG. They're all retail. I'm not in that space, so this is not my tribe. So you're gonna go find that pathway forward, and then you're gonna go look to their application. Most of the angel groups, again, this is like a 70-30 rule now, use a platform called Gust. GUST. Gust is a free platform where entrepreneurs can actually push all of their information, your executive summary, if you will, your baseline information. You can go fill that profile out today. And you can also say, push my information to angel groups where I might be a good fit. It's free. It costs nothing. There is diminuous dollars when you go to present to a lot of angel groups. And by diminuous, people are like, what do you mean? Like thousands, millions? It's like sub $500, usually more like 295, 250, to a quote unquote apply. But you've already done your diligence. You already know if they might be your tribe, as Catherine's alluded to. So if you want to take that pathway, you can do that. And maybe it's a yes and not an either or situation. Um, and then the other way that we often will see, use Crunchbase. I know it's not always intuitive, like, huh? But because everybody thinks Crunchbase is the big venture rounds, but because Crunchbase especially is dual-sided reporting, which means VCs and angel groups can apply and submit their information on who they've invested in, but so too can entrepreneurs. A lot of the time you're getting entrepreneurial first intelligence in Crunchbase of like, oh, I just closed a seed round sub $150,000. It will often show up in Crunchbase in a way that it wouldn't necessarily show up in PitchBook. So just as another source of knowledge, subscribe, get all the free newsletters that you possibly can. This is like zero cost, I promise. And see where your friends are showing up, that are getting funding, and then look at those angel groups that are doing the activation. And then the last resource, I promise for now, there's a wonderful free report that comes out annually called ARI, ARI. It's the Angel Resource Institute. And they will often identify the most active angel groups in the nation. And they'll often talk about the deals that those angel groups have done. And so it's another good insight of like, less than 12 months old data, who's funding, where are they funding, what's the name of that group, who did they fund. So if you're trying to synthesize all that information together, it's just another good resource. So those are a few hacks that I'd also offer.
And also, too, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that there are groups out there for specific types of people. So you might want to look up Angels is LGBTQ focused. There's Black Angels. There's Latino groups. So depending on if you're in a specific group.
Absolutely. Those are great. Now, I'll also add in, and this is true for DAFs, and we haven't talked about strategic investors, which I'm so curious to get your insights on really quickly. But don't forget your service providers. It's so funny. We give money over the funds to be like our lawyers, our bankers, all these people, and we're like, oh, thank you for the work that you do. Have some money, but also realize they're in the business of building relationships. So follow the customer of the customer. A lot of the customers you'll find are your bankers and your lawyers who are like, how can I help? And they don't just mean like what you need transactionally today. They mean what relationships might I be able to open up for you? So in addition to your power entrepreneurs that you've got in your network, you've also got these other great friends like your service providers. So think of them as your extended family, if you will, when you're trusting to share the vision and the passion of what you're building, but also what you need. Don't be afraid to ask them. Have you seen that work, Catherine, in the past on service providers?
Like, you mean like
Like
corp?
asking your lawyers and bankers for introductions to angels or
Oh, right. Absolutely. Sure,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, fantastic.
Yep.
All right, well, I know we're coming to a close, so I'm going to ask you the strategic investor question because I'm really curious, like when and how you view them in the world of like financial supporters. How do you think of strategic investors? And then I'm going to come back to that last question that I had in mind of like, what's next for you, Catherine? What's your next story that you're writing right now?
So your question about the strategic
Strategic
investors?
investors, yeah. How do they show up? Like entrepreneurs pursue strategic investors, and does it work when they do, when they're talking about like finding the right fit? Somebody maybe that came from a corporate background that's going to help them in their own corporate enterprise deals, or is a part of a corporate enterprise.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely important to take investors that can be strategic partners. Definitely that's advantageous. So, yeah, especially if it's like you have a tech product and they happen to be an investor and they work for Cisco, you know, that could be a plus for you, especially if you want to be acquired by a big tech company. So, yeah, they bring more to the table sometimes than just money. They can bring introductions to help build your business. Um, and so it is important who you align yourself with and look at it outside just the money. Who can they strategically align you with? So, yeah, that's something important to keep in mind. Great point.
Love that. Love that. Okay. Well, I knew an hour was going to fly by in conversation with you. But before we let you go, I know everyone here is as eager and excited as I am to hear what's next. What is the next story that you're excited to see come through? What can we expect for you next?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we are definitely looking to reach younger women in the Gen X in colleges. So we just rolled out the Show Her the Money VC 101 college experience. We've just done 3 betas on that, launching it officially at Babson in the fall, and then other universities going into 2027. And so we think this will be a generational game changer for young women to learn about venture capital at an earlier age, and understand it can be a career path as well as an investment path and of course a funding path. So that's kind of next on our agenda among some other things, but that's one that I'm really focused on right now. And yeah, excited about that because that'll help change the landscape. We have to rebuild the venture capital system to serve women. We can't settle for 2%. So one of the ways we're going to do that is with this big transfer of wealth, which is happening for women of all ages, including young people. We have to make sure that we educate them on every level at every age what to do with that transfer of wealth. We can't let it just sit in CDs and public stocks and savings accounts. We have to use some of that to make the world a better place and do some impact investing in alternatives, such as angel investing and venture capital. And so we're on a big mission to educate as many women as we can around the country and around the world about alternative investments to build their wealth and to make a huge impact in the world. And you know, women, we're all about making things better for the future of the planet and for our kids. And so, uh, you know, the Dalai Lama says the Western women will save the planet, and I think that's true. And this big transfer of wealth with the education combined is going to give us the power to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you for paying it forward. Thank you for showing us how we change culture, one heart, one mind, one amazing woman at a time. It's been just a joy and a treat having you with us for an hour. And Allison, I will turn it back to you and let us close things out. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for having me.
you. Thank you so much, Catherine and Nicola, for sharing your insights, and what a power-packed session. On behalf of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, we sincerely thank you for joining us. We would love for you to join us for our upcoming webinars. You can view the upcoming events by using the link in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us very soon.